Cornelia, you are one who will survive. When time's been bad, you put smiles on everyone. I think of you and of all I should have done. It's a struggle and a strife, but don't you agree? With beating hearts, we're still alive.
We took on a quick side project, reorganizing our woodshed so that we would only have dry wood to burn this winter on the right side and the wet wood, or the green wood, that is still drying on the left. Al reinforced the center because he noticed leaking and sagging in the spring when everything started to melt. And he also added some racks by the kindling box to allow us to pile higher and make better use of the space. While I stacked the wood, Al was working on the extension for the floating gazebo. The result of all of this is a cleared space between our blue box and the road, which is now the site for a larger project that we have planned in the fall.
Someone who knows what is to come, 'cause the future's yet to see.
Just wanted to explain a little bit about our extension. I think we mentioned before we solved one problem and then unsolved another. So one of the reasons that we had built this dock was not just to get in and out of the canoe, but also so I could have a platform a little further out in the river to fish from. Been fairly successful fishing off my little mini dock that we first built when we got here, but often get snagged because you're working from the shore, and the way that our little stretch of the river works, I guess, from a fishing perspective is, and then from what I've noticed so far, it's not very productive until kind of around nowish, when the lily pads and the grass start to grow up from the bottom along the shoreline on either side. Once it gets thick enough, then the big predatory fish like the pike and the pickerel and the bass, they will kind of make their way up from the big water into those weedy areas, and they're ambush predators, so they just kind of float there in amongst the weeds. It's like one of the reasons why a pike is striped the way it is, because it just blends right in, and then when little fish go by, kabam. Problem for me is when I'm on the edge, I cast out past the weeds, but inevitably I'm always drawing my bait, my lure or whatever, back into the shore, getting caught in the weeds, and it can be frustrating. Every once in a while I get snagged on something, I gotta go for a swim. Long story long, when we built the frame around the dock, when we decided to turn it into a screened-in kind of gazebo-y hangout area, the first time when I stood there, and I thought about fishing, I'm like, yeah, no, you can't cast inside of a building. Surprise, surprise. And it's not like I can like hang out and balance off with one arm off the dock and fish around corners and stuff. So, all that being said, we kind of laughed about it, and then I just kind of thought about a secondary dock, like a little platform off to the side that we could use both to get in and out of the canoe, to dive off of into the water. It's about 8 feet deep in the middle of the river, so it's enough, kind of like a halfway decent pool. So I just I used pine again for the deck, like the leftover floor that we had from the farmhouse, same as we did the deck on the main part of the dock. I had a couple of 2x6s left over. I split them up the middle to make a very light frame, because the heavier the dock, obviously the more flotation you need, the less actual weight you can put on it. So I wanted it to be sturdy but not overkill, and then braced it with some pieces of cedar, yada yada, and then there's kind of two phases to floating it. Originally I thought I could get away with just 4 blocks made of that foam, and stuck those in each of the corners, and then when we floated it out, it was clear that it was not going to be adequate. It rocked a lot, and it just seemed like anybody but those with very good balance were bound to fall off that thing or get hurt. So went on the inner tubes, poked around a little bit, and one thing I hadn't thought of but saw some people employ in making a raft is just simply using Rubbermaid bins. I was really surprised. I don't know why I didn't think of that earlier, but when you look at some of the stuff you can buy to make a dock, and here's the thing, we'll spend money where we need to spend money or where we think it makes sense, but what I find is that the price of those dock systems, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because it's associated with people that must already have some more disposable income because they're building something at a cottage, they're prohibitively expensive compared to some of these other solutions. You know what I mean? Considering that it is itself a glorified plastic extruded bin with no actual lid, I don't see why it's so much more expensive than these other solutions. So what we did is we went to Home Depot. We got 6 of these, bins, the right size, to fit underneath the frame of the dock. They were, I think, $12.30 a piece, so 6 of them, still well under $100. And we put the 6 of them, 3 on each side on the dock, and floated it out. And to be honest, it still wasn't quite as stable or sturdy as I'd like. So what we ended up doing was using all of the above. So we have 4 bins across the front, 2 bins on either side, and then across the back I use those same foam blocks, except I flip them on their side so that they're as deep as the bins. And then we also wrap them in plastic bags. What I can't get a straight answer on, and that's just me, I'm sure it's out there, my understanding is that foam is not totally waterproof. I'm finding that out, that it is somewhat water permeable. And so what I think that I'm observing, of course I'm not like meticulously studying this, what I've noticed is the float under our gangplank is a lot more submerged at rest than it was previously, and it seems to dip a little bit further. So I'm thinking either the wood that we surrounded it with is getting waterlogged and a little heavier, or the foam, or a bit of both. So anyways, what we did is we took some heavy construction garbage bags. I just kind of slit them at the seam to just make a tarp. Then I put the block in the middle, brought it up over, and used sheeting tape to tape it around the corner, around the top corners, so that basically it's waterproof from the bottom perspective. And then I took another less heavy duty garbage bag, these small ones, and cut it so that it just fit over like a cap, and then tape that as well. And then for aesthetic purposes, used a bit of black Gorilla tape just to hide the red sheeting tape that we used to seal it all together. And then we fit those underneath the dock. So the bins themselves, we flipped the dock over, put the bins into place. I had to, just cut a couple blocks to kind of shore it up to make sure they were all resting flat against the frame. And then I actually screwed them down at each corner with a little 3/4 inch deck screw. The floats themselves, though, I just built, there's a lip that goes all the way around the dock to hold everything in, and then I ran a piece of wood across the back of all 4 of the foam floats to hold them in place. When you flip it over, they fall out. It's not to keep them attached to the dock, it's just simply to keep them from floating out from under it. So, it's a little precarious, and it's fairly heavy. We got it down the stairs and got it launched. Seems to work really well. What we noticed too, though, is still a little bit tippy, which I think is just the nature of floating docks. I don't know how much you can get away from that. But what we did is I brought it around, and I just have it kind of stick out about 4 feet past the one side of the existing gazebo system. And then I used these 2 heavy-duty corner brackets. I can't remember what we originally bought them for, and I don't know what gauge steel they are, but they're not insignificant. And then I use some of my big timber lock structural screws. So I with these 2 corner brackets, I attached the dock, the new dock, to the gazebo dock, and while doing that, and this was a little bit tricky, it was kind of more art than science, I suppose, but what I did is I pushed up on the dock so that it was submerging the platform that I was standing on, or like resting on. Then I screwed it into place, and so if you see it now in the photo, and this would be looking along its length, the dock, the new dock, is tipped up a little bit this way. And so what happens is when you walk out onto that platform, it basically rights itself, and some of that force is absorbed by trying to raise the other end and push up the gazebo. And it's kind of cool because it has this overall effect of leveling and stabilizing the gazebo. So what used to happen is when we'd walk across to the one end, it would kind of tip. In fact, there was one night Kim and I, we sat in the together side by side on the back seat, and the whole thing kind of tilts back, which is funny. It's kind of like a recliner, but we wanted a little more stable than that. So now that we have the gangplank on one end with its float, and we have the new kind of utility dock on the other end that's cantilevered with those angle brackets into the other dock, the whole thing is kind of stabilized, and it works really well. I was super happy. Haven't caught anything yet. Like I say, the grass is just starting to fill in where there's places to hide. But what's really nice is because I'm so far out into the water now, I can literally cast straight down the river, right along where the grass starts to poke up through and where the water lilies are coming up, and I can just troll my lure right along the edge of that, which will be perfect because that's exactly where the pike and the bass kind of hang out, and that's where they're going to try and ambush the bait. So, good stuff.
Gravel road, I've been asked to slow down. Fireplace, do you know how? desk is out. Who will care for the world out? Rest with me, close to curtains, brew some herbal tea. Reach out for me, take my hand and lead even when I disagree. Oh, how I love when it rains outside, and it's okay to slow the ride. Discover books I forget about, but who care for the world now? Rest with me, close the curtains, brew some herbal tea. Reach out for me, take my hand and lead even when I disagree. Maybe then I can relax. Maybe then I can breathe my hair loose in my bed. Oh, just rest with me, close the curtain.
I wanna jump around when I think about yesterday. Your smile, your style so fly, my oh my. As time stood still, I got the urge to steal a kiss, and so I did. Now I'm embarrassed, but just a little bit. Oh, there must be gold on those lips and honey on those fingertips. Can you imagine us two out in the woods
So our goal for the floating gazebo was to have it ready for when Norval and his girlfriend Julia come to visit. And we thought we gave ourselves tons of time, but we are on the last day before they come to visit, and Al is just working on the doors now. So he finished the final 3 screens for the roof this morning, and we're going to install those soon and then get the doors in. And then other than that, we just have to caulk any areas that have gaps still that we weren't able to get as tightly closed as we wanted to. And then we can get the furniture in there and it's good to go. So we're really pleased. It turned out so much better than we thought it was going to. And, you know, even with the rain and everything, you know, all's well that ends well. We are so pleased that it's done, and we're going to be able to enjoy it for the rest of the summer. So it just rocks.
Like the world turned its back on us, and now we can't tell if it's heaven or hell. It's like knowing all the answers. Oh, you're sorry, but you never can tell. All the lovers, we were diving for 2D different colors that we had to put to sleep. All the lovers hope that we could break the spell. We went down the wishing well. You set the fire and tone to promised land. You got a whole religion in the palm of your hand. It's like the world turned its back on us, and now we can't